Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name's Jake, and I'm joined not in a virtual studio, but in Johnny's studio for another episode of the Chaps. Sambo, Johnny, how are we? Good. I was trying to judge the delay here, and it's different.
It's tough. It's tough delay when you're in person.
Yeah.
It's
one
like
of the downsides.
instant.
One of the downsides. The other downside, smell of feet.
Yep.
And also, we have to wear pants. Definitely true. I mean, the audience wouldn't know. The audience wouldn't know here, but we would know.
We would.
I mean, we do know that John's not wearing pants.
Yeah.
We're just
that was used to that by now.
My subtle dig. We're meant to wear pants, John.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
FYI for the next time.
I'm comfortable in my own house. That's how I stroll around.
My own house! It's nice to be here. A little Wanderlust reference for you there. I was going to say Jennifer Lawrence, wrong actress. Jennifer Aniston, Paul Rudd vehicle. 2012? 2013? Later? Look it up if you haven't seen it. 2014, 2015 maybe. Who knows?
2016.
One of those years before the plague
Yeah.
happened. On tonight's show, it's great. We're flying without Colin, our producer, so there shouldn't be any stuff ups there. We're flying without any banners or digital stuff live. Going to put that in later, so I'm totally winging it here. But I think on the show tonight, we're going to be talking Cats v Dockers, the round 22 recap, chaps. Can't wait to get into all of that. If you want to go and listen to the extended part of this show, which will happen after we sign off on the public part, make sure you go on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon channel. You get extended versions of our podcast. You get Wednesday news wrap with myself and Ben, more consistently Ben, sometimes me, VFL men's and women's coverage, scratching post episodes from Paul, and a whole lot more. You also get to submit questions and topics for us to discuss, and that's of course what we're going to be doing tonight on the Patreon part of the show, is discussing some of those questions and topics that were sent in. But chaps,
Yes,
that's enough about that. Enough mucking around. We need to get into the Cats v Dockers round 22 recap, a victorious recap at that. So, chaps, this was a massive game for the Cats and for the Dockers. It really shaped as a significant matchup in determining how the top four would roll out come the end of the season. The Cats got off to the hottest of starts over in the West. It was Jeremy Cameron with the opening goal of the game after just 3 minutes. It was Ollie Dempsey adding one, a soccer. He just kicks those every week. Ollie Dempsey.
Can't help himself.
That's right. He's the most fun out there, isn't it? That's what they're saying on that thing.
Say.
He's the player who's having the most fun playing footy. Then there was a third goal for the Cats. Ollie Henry. Cats had 3 on the board inside the first 7 minutes. They added another one to Reece Stanley, and this was on its way, chaps, to being a potential blowout. But we knew that the Dockers would come back, and of course they did. It was a goal to Caleb Sarong after 17 and a half minutes. It was another goal, this time to former Cat Jordan Clark, who pulled the old Turkish marksman from the Olympics celebration, like roughly 17,000 other grade footballers this weekend. The Cats took a 4-2 26 to 2-1 13 lead in at the first change of ends. The Dockers, they did the early scoring in the second term behind to Bailey Banfield. Boo! A goal to Michael Frederick, a behind to Michael Frederick, narrowed the gap. The Cats kicked it back out via a wonder goal from Lionel Messi, Brian Myers. The Dockers answered straight back via the boot of Hayden Young. They made it a tied game off the boot of Sam Sturt before the Cats kicked a goal. Shannon Neal doing the business after 16 minutes, 41 seconds. That was the last goal that was scored in the first half as Geelong went into the sheds up 6-4 40 to 5-4 34. Freo, the first 2 goals of the third quarter. Bang, Luke Jackson. Bang, Caleb Sarong after just 10 minutes. But the Cats, as they have done a lot of times this season, though a lot of people tend to forget, they got straight back on even terms. Sean Manor snagging a goal after 13 and a half minutes. There was a flurry of behinds to the Cats. Jeremy Cameron kicked one. Ollie Henry kicked one. Shannon Neal kicked one. The Dockers had a chance to reclaim the lead via the boot of Hayden Young. They couldn't do it, but they did do it. When Jaya Miss, he has scored to take an 8-7-55 to 7-9-51 lead at the three-quarter time break. Everyone was saying the Cats are cooked. It's all over, Red Rover. Not so. Patrick Dangerfield, massive last quarter from the skipper, put the Cats in front after 5.5 minutes. Freo took the lead again, the third goal of the afternoon to Caleb Sarong, but that was the last time the home crowd in Freo were able to cheer because they would do no further scoring. It was the Cats by the boot of Shannon Neal with his second goal of the day after 12 minutes of the final term. A rush behind, a Patrick Dangerfield behind, a rush behind again, and then Sean Manor. Mind your manners! Streaking through. Got a nice little tap spike to, was it Brad Close or Myers? Who gave the ball back to him. Shawnee Manor runs in and slots it to seal up what was an extremely impressive.
Would you say he sealed it in an emphatic manner?
Oh, yes. Well played.
Well done. Well done.
The Cats winning 10-13, 73 to 9-8, 62, an 11-point win. Johnny, I'll come to you first.
Right.
It probably could have been a bit more, ultimately. What were your thoughts on the game?
Probably should have been a lot more if the Cats were that little bit more accurate in the third quarter. I think at the game, watching it all together at my house, and said that third quarter was a frustrating quarter because we had so many opportunities, like all those behinds. Most likely should have been goals from where the Cats had gotten from. Like Dempsey won, pretty much nearly straight in front. Went for a snap, missed. Cameron as well. Who else was it? No, it wasn't Dangerfield. Ollie Henry.
Yeah,
all those. They should have kicked them. They're more than capable of easily kicking them. Shannon Neal as well. Like all those behinds should have been goals, and on other days it probably would have been. And if they kick those, we go into the three-quarter time break going, this is an easy, emphatic win. But then we might have laxed off and let Freo get back in the last quarter. But, Cats don't do that very often. They don't let the team get back in too easily near the end. Hopefully not. Well, they do sometimes, but not too often. But yeah, overall, it was a really impressive win. Really impressed with how the team stood up as a unit. Like, there wasn't really many outstanding players throughout the entire game. Like, Dangerfield stood up absolutely in crucial moments and in that last quarter. But for the rest of the game, I thought the whole team played as a cohesive unit, played the best I've seen them as a whole team work together and getting each other into the ground, into the game, and just the pressure. The team effort pressure was pretty astounding and really exciting to see the Cats starting to really gel. This new young core group, they're really gelling as well, and I can't wait to see what they do when it's their turn to stand up. When we don't have Dangerfield, we don't have Cameron,
don't have Tom Hawkins,
don't have Tom Stewart, but it still feels like Tom Stewart's still got so long to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't talk about no Stewie. I can't handle that.
Even though he still didn't have that game where you go, glad we had Tom Stewart there.
Yeah,
it was a lot of times it's going to bloody good team effort, and it's probably the first time we've seen a comprehensive team effort throughout the entire game without players having to do something out of their skin. But I thought, the captain stood up when the captain needed to stand up, especially with that goal in I think it was the third quarter. And I said to you guys, this has to go in. This is a non-negotiable. He has to score it. And he did what he does most times. He stood up and got that goal.
Sambo?
Yeah, basically the same.
Yeah.
It was good. It was, as you guys said, could have been probably a little bit more. Probably could have kicked some more goals. But that being said, it was one of those weird games that always felt tight and always was tight, but never quite felt like we were out of the driver's seat. They had a bit of a push. There was a bit of a spell there where they really got their stuff going. But it never felt too much like we were just going to let it slide. Like it was going to be one of those days that just couldn't be brought back onto our terms. With a few things going our way, which is basically what happened. You mentioned the pressure, John. I thought the pressure game was the big difference from first bounce to the final siren. I thought that was the biggest difference between the teams. And really, it was not even so much those as far as the being able to make the margin a bit bigger. It wasn't even specifically missed shots. It was also just the inside 50s. Like our efficiency inside 50 is pretty good, but to my understanding, that's just inside 50 that results in a score, not a goal. So it's still pretty good, but like that's when it comes to what you were talking about the actual conversion of the shots. But even before that, like we were sitting there, we discussed this a couple of weeks, maybe across the last 2 or 3 weeks, the idea of finding some different avenues to goal. And I think after us discussing that, it was really stark in this game how many times we kicked it. We got it into a really good final disposal position and then kicked it to what was a somewhat unadvantageous position. It's just interesting. I'd love to know if that's intentional, if we intentionally don't cut it back short to someone. Like the amount of times there was 2 players, but it almost looked like those players weren't even calling for it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's like it's actually a game plan that those guys that are like 40 out in the middle are just there to draw, hopefully to draw defenders or something, because we just never hit them up, ever.
Until Tyson did.
Stengel
did. He cut it back really nicely.
Or was it Atkins as well? Either it was Atkins, but there was definitely a point there when Atkins did as well. It was a kick that was way too high. Do you remember that one? Or was
that's the one. That's the one I was like, that's a.
It looked horrible. It looked like absolutely kicking. It just like floated back, and it's like it looked like he'd way overcooked the height.
Yeah.
But it worked out really well. But yeah, we just don't seem to ever do that, and that's not a criticism if it's part of the game plan, because so far it's working. But it was really interesting how many times we've burnt those options. And it's just another way that the margin could have been bigger. But no, other than that little nitpick, I was pretty happy.
Yeah.
Now, I said at the start of the show that we have our Patreon subscribers submit questions and topics for us to discuss. And our man Josiah has suggested one for us that I said to him, it's probably going to come up in the public part of the show. So let's just let it rip here. And Josiah's question is just a question about the Freo game. Looking back at the stats, was very surprised at how much more they had the ball and how well they used it. Have we ever been smashed in those stats but still won the clearance count and destroyed them in tackles? Does this give us an idea of the game plan going into the finals against teams with strong midfields? I just want to start off, chaps, by saying that the stats we're talking about here, disposals, Freo had 397 to 307, so 90 more touches of the footy than us. They had 31 more kicks. They had 59 more handballs. They went at 81.1% efficiency to our 68.4% efficiency. And there was 276 uncontested to 175. So 100 more uncontested touches. I think we sort of talked about it a bit, was we were happy for Freo to rack up the touches across their back half, as so long as it ultimately at some point in the move resulted in a long kick to contest, and we felt like...
Or a turnover.
Yeah, it worked pretty well from our perspective, yeah?
It's just one of those things like the opposition team can have the ball as much as they want. If they're just kicking it around in their defensive 50, they're not attacking. They're not going full burst forward all the time. They're having to find a way through the defence. And I think let them have the ball as much as they want. Let them chip it around between themselves, because it's, one, wasting up time that they need to score, giving us time to set up, and giving us time to get like Stanley, Blitzavs, STK when he comes back into getting those really good positions where they can intercept, and Tom Stewart as well. And then when we do turn it over, like we saw on the weekend, the Cats are ready to go. And then it gets the Fremantle defence other team's defense out of whack, and then they've got to sprint back
Mm.
after doing all this kicking back and forth. Then they've got to sprint back and stop the Cats. So, yeah, I think if other teams want to chip kick it around, let them go for it as long as it ends up either in a turnover or they have forced to kick it really long, and not to an advantage.
I was just going to say that part of the thing is there's like a danger zone where you can't. It's basically on us, right, Sambo, that to make sure if we don't eventually force that long kick, like teams can actually do what Freo tried to do, but effectively. I feel like we saw Port use a bit of that. Freo was it last year when they absolutely annihilated us over in Fremantle. It was like this sort of a style of game in terms of the skew of stats. I think they had something like 17 in the top 20 disposal getters, but they were effective. What do you think happened that meant that all this possession, all this disposal, all these marks, 120 marks, I think it was to 87. What did you see that undid it?
Well, it's everything. It's everything like what John was alluding to. It's everything off the ball. It's the
Off-ball structure?
It's the structure. It's the structure that we harp on and on and on about. And apparently the Cats are back up to being the number one team without the ball in the comp. And I think that's a hallmark of the strong Cat sides since probably 2021. Like when the Cats were doing well in 2021, I remember when we as a podcast were invited on the AFL the Footy Live stream to talk about the Cats specifically, and they brought up the ruck issue. I remember us even back then talking about how the ruck isn't the be all and end all. It's not that. The centre bounce isn't where we build, and that's obviously to say that we won the hitouts pretty well in this game. But just as far back as 2021, I remember us talking about the fact that is not the central pillar that our game is built around. Our game is built from the off-ball structure, squeezing the life out of their plans and then going from there. And I think that's what was happening, that they were able to rack up possessions around the back, but they were all almost not low threat, basically zero threat possessions. And the way you make it so they can't then turn that into an effective kick is just make sure that you've got your pressure up, but it's effective pressure. It's not pressure just like ball chasing, two people going to the one guy. Tyson Stengel, Ollie Henry just hassling, just making sure that kicker isn't ever able just to go completely without pressure. But we're not committing all of our eggs into the basket of let's tackle this guy, and then he hand passes or kicks it, and then they're away. So that sliding doors they talk about defensively, anytime the broadcast would go to a nice pan back, there was just nowhere for him to kick it to. So they had heaps of players in their back half. Sure, they could kick it laterally all they wanted, but the speed, and this is something else we've talked about. I love seeing our players jogging off ball. Like it sounds like a weird thing to say, but it means that they're set up well. When you see, Jack Henry or Tom Stewart or someone just jogging to keep, or Brian Myers, even midfielders and those half forwards, that just jogging to keep up with their man, because it means generally what it means is that everybody else is set up. Yeah, they're not running because oh my god, we've got a hole in our structure. They're running because this is let him kick it to that guy. I'll just go over there and stand on the mark because we're happy for him to have it there. So I think this is a hallmark of all the not strong teams, but when we've been in form since 2021, I think this is what we've seen. I remember us talking about it last year as well, and it's the same this year. It's great when we win the hitouts, but I think more important is our clearance game, and more important than that is our off-ball structure and turnovers.
And going back to the idea of jogging, it was when they're jogging, they're also getting ready to pounce when they do make a mistake. And every time when Freo made a mistake, the Cats were on them, making sure that mistake turned into either a turnover or a rushed kick or handball. And then they had to go. The Fremantle had no choice, but they had to run, and that sort of set it. I thought they actually looked probably a little bit better when they moved the ball a bit quicker, Freo.
100%.
And they looked more dangerous, but they never really went with that long enough. And then...
Well, I'm not sure if we let them.
I didn't let them. But the one thing that I really liked was felt like they were setting up for that last quarter blitz, the Cats. And you even mentioned it, Sam. You said, I think towards the end of the third, it felt like Dangerfield was getting ready for a big fourth quarter. and then came out, had a big fourth quarter. Whole team did. I think that was from the pressure they put on the Freo, the amount of times Freo had to kick it and run and just tired them out. And Fremantle just looked pretty tired at the end of the game. Like they couldn't keep up with the Cats. And, for the second oldest team, it's pretty impressive being too old and too slow.
It's funny how that skews, like the age demographic of the Cats. Like it's blown out by players like, Mitch Duncan, Blixarves, Dangerfield. There's a lot of youth, under that sort of that umbrella of age. I just wanted to quickly bring up a stat, and this is talking about forcing that kick and why. I don't know about you, Chaps, but I always thought there was a potential to lose the game. There always is when you're in a close match. But I felt pretty confident that we were going to get over the top of them.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't bother me, all that disposal. Like, that doesn't really scare me so long as we see what you guys have both just laid out, is the defensive discipline to commit the right amount of players to the tackle and keep hassling where we have to hassle, and then also to be in position down the line to force the kick. As long as there eventually has a kick forced, even if that's the last one going inside 50, just the stat I was going to bring up is the Cats had 30 spoils to 22. So I think that's, you had Colin Jasny with 6, Zach Guthrie with 6, Jack Henry with 4, Reece Stanley 3, Lawson Humphreys 3, Blixarves 3. I thought Humphreys' defensive efforts were exceptional on the weekend.
Really good.
So yeah, that's, I guess, how we would answer that, is that I don't always see one team getting, say, a plus 100 disposals as necessarily one team dominating. Sometimes it can be the reverse. Sometimes it can be, it's actually a team almost going into a more conservative style of game plan to protect themselves, trying to reduce Geelong's capacity for the counter-attack. But
it's also, like you have the saying, that it doesn't matter how many times you have the ball, it's how do you use the ball when you do have it. And I think the Cats are very expert at using the ball pretty effectively when they do have it, even if it is like 90, 100 times less than what the opposition have it. I think that's what we saw on the weekend. The Cats just using the ball a bit better. Even though the disposal percentages says otherwise, that's still pretty skewed by the way the Fremantle were disposing of it. Like they were doing those chip kicks to each other. So that's going to boost it up.
Yeah, 100%. Like
68% point four is still a really, that's what kind of percentage you'll want to be having in a game style the Cats play.
Well, it's right on our season average. We're normally at 68.9%. We went at 68.4%. Freo normally at 76%. They went at 81.1%. It'd be really interesting to look at stats like meters gained per disposal. I think Freo probably would have had a lot of short, chippy kick it around. And I mean, that's illustrated by the 120 marks.
And it goes to inside 50 efficiency as well. But it just shows how good the Cats are at using the ball inside 50 once it goes in there. Like they're at 44.9%, and they're at 38%. So when the Cats went inside 50, were a lot more efficient than what the Freo were, and that's what cost them.
And another thing, for having, an extra 100 touches of the footy and, an extra 43 marks or whatever it was, they had one more inside 50.
Yeah.
So it does come down to that. I don't think you can just look at they had more disposals, they had a higher disposal efficiency, therefore they used it better. I think looking at the context of how they used it, now there's a version of this game that plays out with Freo move it more effectively and are able to capitalise. We've seen that at times. Like there are teams out there that it would probably worry me more to give lots of the footy to. Freo don't bother me so much, but I think you saw it probably in the Port Adelaide game a bit where they combined their lots of disposals with speed. Like everything was shifting, and it was actually hard for Geelong to shift across, do that sliding doors with defence.
Yeah. I think our pressure was way more aimless against Port too.
Yeah, true.
We were getting sucked into because we were watching from sort of one end, looking down, and you could see half the field just was a couple of Port players.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the field split down the middle, like from goal to goal, was where everything was happening. And Port would just do a little, not a hard kick, a little kick laterally, and then they're just away coming down that sort of our left hand side. And also they smashed us in the hitouts and the clearances.
Yeah.
So the Port game we couldn't get our game going, and their game was going as well. So we were losing our battle, the structure battle, getting sucked into this aimless, just tiresome pressure. And also they were just killing us in the center. The other one too is as far as their sort of Fremantle's sort of low damage possessions was the marks. We talked about the marks, but the marks inside 50s. Did you mention that?
No,
so they had 120 marks to our 87, but only 2 more marks inside 50. So they smashed us in overall marks, but only they were 11-9 in marks inside 50. So it's just another of those little, just adds a little bit of context to that. If you just look at the marks, you go, oh wow, but we're almost even on marks inside 50 from like 30, 32, 33 less marks. So
I was going to mention too that like Geelong, I think we've got to stop underrating our own midfield.
Definitely.
Like, I think this is a side that is developing. I'm not saying we have like a top 5 midfield, but you know, we did beat them in clearances. We did outscore them 41-20 from clearances. And it's not like this was done against, you know, like Richmond or someone like that. This was against a team that going into this match, we have to remember Cat's Twitter, that we went into this match going, oh my God, it's, you know, Sarong and this player and that player and that player. They're so deep in their midfield.
At their home ground.
Well,
when they needed to, all you heard all week was it's Fremantle at their home. They've got to win. They've got to win this. They've got no choice. They've got to win this. They've got to go in and win it. And I was like thinking about the day. It's like, well, that's just all the talk during the week about this game has taken all pressure off the Cats, put it all on Freo, and they've just gone, no, we can't deal with this. And the Cats are like, really? No pressure on us.
Yeah,
let us play our game the way we want, and we're gonna absolute monster you.
If the game had played out the way you might have thought it would be that we would have been smashed into clearances, and they would have got their scores from clearances and centre bounce, and we would have had to rely on scores from the back half and turnover, because that is where we score a lot. But that wasn't the case at all, really.
Something that sort of stands out to me, just looking through a few stats, 81% game time for Patrick Dangerfield. That seems higher than normal.
Very high.
I was really impressed. I think his last quarter stands out, but I don't think he had 11 clearances in the last quarter.
He had 7.
7 in the last quarter. Wow.
Yeah.
So, but like it's an excellent performance from him. I like this thing that they're doing at the moment where they're putting him up forward to rest him, so you sort of still get his impact.
He takes those just absolute brilliant marks inside 50. Like, who's going to stop him going for those marks? No, not many people.
Am I right in thinking he had 7 clearances, but it was only like 9 disposals in the last quarter? Yeah. Like 7 of his disposals were clearances, I think. And
the other player who sort of fits that bill is, I actually thought Jack Bowes did some decent things. 5 clearances and 12 touches, 8 tackles. So he only had the ball 12 times, but 5 of those were clearances. He also gained 321 metres from just 12 touches of the footy, which is, you know, fairly aggressive. And, you know, a lot of those are him just getting it and bombing it Geelong's way out of a clearance.
But that's what you want sometimes from you.
Well, it's what we want in our game style too.
Yeah, just get it in there, because we've got Stengel, Close, Myers, Ollie Dempsey, who are all excellent ball users going inside 50. Just get it to them, and then they'll either find a way to Jeremy Cameron, Shannon Neal, Tom Hawkins when he comes back, or themselves. They'll sort it out between themselves.
This
Ollie Henry as well.
Quick sidebar. This is the importance of that lateral cutback kick that I'd like to see us do more. Is we're so good when we do kick it long. We've got so many ways to damage them, so many players up there that can bring it to ground, crash the pack, take a mark, whatever. And if you do that 10 times in a quarter, and then just once or twice, suddenly we just cut it back, and you just get another goal from there, because we've got like all those players you were talking about could also easily kick a goal from 50 to 45. Is Tom Atkins' meters gained a glitch?
Sorry, we're
Tom Atkins' meter, it'll be all the way down the bottom.
No, 89. There it is.
89 meters game. I saw him kick it 50 in one kick. There was a couple of times, because there was literally a time there where I said he's almost could turn into like a Chapman.
Yeah,
The way because he did this massive kick. So that means he got maybe a total of 40 something meters from all his other disposals.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking about, I wonder, I'm not sure about this. Does kicking backwards, because like you've got Carl Warner,
as far as I'm aware,
minus 38 meters gained.
Takes it off.
Yeah, kicking backwards removes the meters gained.
Actually, because he did also do a massive kick backwards. You remember that? It was almost like when you're playing soccer and you see a team kick it back to the goalie. There was a bit where you're like, oh, okay.
Recycle it.
Yeah, I reckon he negated both the 50
and then
he did, and then kicked it back the other way. But I also thought he was good. I thought he did some just like great, just little getting in there, getting over it.
Both were tough this week because, as I said earlier, like it was such a team performance. There wasn't many players that stood out throughout the entire game because everyone just played their role so well until we needed someone to stand up. And when you need someone to stand up, look for the captain, and that's what Dangerfield did. But it's very, very impressive. I love the pressure gauge that they brought up as well. Yeah.
It was like polar opposite.
Polar opposites, like 220 to 140 or something in that first quarter.
Don't get me started on the pressure gauge. I love that we've got it, but I would love some context. Tell us,
be good.
how do you like what goes into determining the rating? We've got very low, low, medium, very high,
elite
like,
or whatever.
It's just like, but why? Why is 200 and whatever an elite pressure rating? Like, what are you doing? And I'm sure people
doesn't matter.
We
were winning that.
Yeah, I only care when we're losing it, and then I go, what is this shit?
Can you send Hoyne a DM on Instagram or something, Sambo?
Sure.
So the other thing I think we should just briefly touch on, Bailey Banfield copping a $1,250 fine with an early plea.
Disgraceful.
Weak.
Horrible. Like, absolutely. Like, what? So what's the disincentive now for people at local level to just do that? And people go, oh, well, we don't teach our kids to do that. They will watch it. They'll watch it and they learn it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's okay to shove your elbow into the back of someone's head while they're on the ground in a prone position. That's perfectly fine.
Like player safety and all this sort of crap that they, bleat on and on about we've got to, ease the tackle and all this sort of stuff. Duty of care, of care.
The reason they don't care about it is because there was no swing. There was no impact. So it's not going to cause a concussion. But just as far as being an absolute dog act.
It looked like there was a fair bit of force though.
Well, but it was slowed. That's not. This is my opinion, but from their opinion, they're only worried if it's going to cause a concussion.
It's not a concussive force.
It's not like you could do some damage to someone, but it's not going to be a concussion, so they don't give a shit.
Which is I do agree with a lot of the AFL people. It's like, are they saying it's the action that they want to get rid of or the outcome? Because at the moment,
it's the outcome.
No one knows.
What
it is. It's either it needs to be the action that needs to be taken for account, not the outcome, because it's just getting to that point where this player's fine, so we won't suspend him. But if he did it a little bit worse, a little bit higher, and he got a concussion, then he would send him into the box.
If he, the second action, like on the replay, the way he moves the elbow, like it's the most. And the commentator, I didn't hear it at the time, but when you rewatch the clips, whoever was commentating at the time calls it a brain fade.
That's not a brain fade.
I love how
he had time to go, oh, my elbow's only on his back. I'm going to move it into his neck.
It's not a brain fade. That's
so intentional.
Yeah. Intentional. Absolutely intentional. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to hurt him.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Why else would you do that? There's no other reason to do it other than to try and hurt another human being.
Well, too bad. They're hurting now and they're probably going to miss out on finals.
Well, I hope they do, and I hope you're watching that footage back, Mr. Banfield, and you're going to take a good hard look at how you go about it, because that was not a very good example to be setting for young footballers, and also
Cats players doing
just out of the example thing, just a bad thing to do. Like duty of care for your fellow footballers. I thought it was really, really average. Let's
talk some positives.
Let's talk positives. We've got to do our votes. How about we do this a bit differently tonight? Let's do our votes, and then we'll cover any players that we need to cover who didn't get a bit of a nod. I probably need to grab my phone to do. Have you guys got your votes?
Yeah, I can
On
grab
yours.
mine up.
Yeah, fire yours away, Johnny, and I'll find mine.
So yeah, votes were
It was tough.
very tough, but I've got mine a little bit. Well, number one's probably way out of what everyone else has gone with,
Okay.
but this is more on the way this player played really impressed me, and that's Tyson Stengel. I thought this was a really impressive game by Stengel. Just the way he applied the pressure, applied throughout the entire game, like led to the pressure he applied on. I think it was whoever Fremont player that led to the Mana goal was crucial. If he didn't just keep harassing and tackling and dragging him to the ground, then we don't get that goal, and it could have gone the other way a few times in being that releasing kick out of defensive 50 where he was in the midfield and did like one time he went for the mark, dropped it, but he still firsted the ball and got it out to the wing to another Cats player. Just a few moments where he just had really crucial, impactful moments throughout the game. And as I said earlier, he also did the one that cut that kick that led directly to a goal. I think it led to a goal, might have been behind. But yeah, I just thought just moments where he didn't get the ball much, but his impact on the game was a lot bigger than what the stats would show. So yeah, I thought deserves at least one vote from us chaps.
Yeah.
Give him
He'd have to be top in for tackles inside 50, right?
I don't know if he actually laid a tackle.
He's top
Okay.
game high, 3 tackles inside 50.
There you go. I was going to
There you
say,
go.
I thought I saw 0.
Pressure was fantastic. I'm giving my 2 votes to Sean Manor. I thought this was there was one moment where he gave away 50, but it happens.
Shit happens.
Shit happens. It really does. But I thought the rest of his game was pretty fantastic.
I'm still unclear on that too, whether the 50 was for holding him or for being the wrong man.
Oh, on the mark.
Yeah.
I'm still confused because I think if it's the holding one, it's
there.
It's there to be fair, but I actually think he got pinged just for being because it was meant to be Neil, right?
Yeah, it was meant to be Neil because he was
And
the one
Neil
that got
runs. And I'm
tackled.
pretty sure it's one of those because I
Yeah.
didn't know that until very recently that the it might be common knowledge to
Yeah.
everybody else, but I didn't know
think
the
it's-
umpire says you are and you can't swap or
Yeah, because I think it's when it's like a holding the ball, the person who got caught holding the ball
has
to be.
yeah.
And it was Neil and Matt.
And he got up to run and
It was just one of those moments where it's like, made a mistake. But I thought the rest of his game was really good.
Yeah.
Couple of crucial goals, especially the match winner. And I say again, like he's after
just little things, little flicks and taps and all that kind of stuff.
that tap to close, which then led back to him to keep the winning goal. And the time in the VFL has really just sharpened him up, brought him into what the Cats are about. As I said earlier in another pod, it feels like he's a Cats player now, and it's going to be so hard to get him out of this side because he looks cemented in that forward half and loves playing alongside Brian Myers, Brad Close, Tom Atkins, and Stengel. Like, he's fitted in so well. Very glad the Cats picked him up, and no one did because no one else saw what Manor can do. And I'm giving my 3 votes to P Daddy. But that last quarter was just
Pretty hard. It's pretty hard to look
pretty hard
past.
to look past.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, he stood up, kicked that crucial goal in the third quarter, and then just went from there in the fourth, and was the big reason why the Cats won.
Just realised I'm staring at the stats and we can't see ourselves. So half the time I'm probably just staring because I'm reading the stats that are on the screen next to the webcam.
Yeah, my 3. They're my 3. Stengel, Manor, and P Daddy for the 3 because when you see a captain stand up like that, you just go, it's good to see.
Well, I think
Paddy
you
do that.
said straight after the game, you said 3 votes for
Dangerfield.
danger. It may have even been during the last quarter.
Yeah.
And I said, it's hard to think of anyone else, but I will. Like the only way I was going to look at the stats, if someone else had just had one of those games where you're like, I didn't even see them get 28 touches with 100% disposal efficiency. But yeah, even looking at the stats, he just owned it. So the eyeball test and the stats kind of backing up.
Except his disposal efficiency.
That's
But
right. That's
that's
half,
one of those
half of
things.
his kicks are under pressure.
Yeah.
Just smashed forwards.
as I said, that's the whole point of the midfield is, get it, especially when it's contested and hard, tough footy. You just get it and slam it on the boot, and the forwards will do the rest. And that's what happened.
I gave my 1 vote to Sean Manor. All the reasons you said. I thought that was a lovely thing, like the tap to close that he then got back. It's like that. Bring your teammates into it. You get the ball back and you slot the match winner. Maybe Sean Manor round 1 takes that ball into possession instead.
Yeah.
And gets tackled. It's a stoppage on the edge of 50 and Geelong don't get that goal. Instead, he does the smart thing, taps it out, gets it back, slots it. He also had 22 pressure acts, 11 of them in the back half, 11 in the front half. So he's pressuring not just up forward, but in the defensive half as well. His kicking efficiency, 62.5%, which while it doesn't pop off the screen, it's about middle of the table for the Cats, possibly even in nearing the top 10. Actually, if you sort of look through it, he was even with Jack Bowes. I gave my 2 votes to Zach Guthrie.
Nice.
He had 20 disposals, 12 by foot, 8 by hand, 10 marks, which was a team high, couple of tackles. But then you go into things like the defensive half pressure acts. He had 15, which was team high. He had 83.3% kicking efficiency, equal 4th or equal 5th most for the Cats with Jack Henry. 6 spoils. He faced 4 contested defensive one-on-ones. He lost just 1 of them. Thought Zach Guthrie was exceptional down back, and I too gave my 3 votes to Patrick Dangerfield. Hard to look past him. Big impact player, and great to see him having these captaincy moments. He had one, round 1 against the Saints, which we were there for, and he has them again in this last quarter. What about you?
Mine are the same. I've got the one to Manor, the 2 to Guthrie, and the 3 to Dangerfield. So not much for me to say.
Okay.
I will talk about the play that I wanted, almost had in there, which was Reece Stanley. For someone much maligned Stanley, his stats don't jump off the page as far as disposals and all that kind of stuff. But to come out and get 35 hit outs or whatever it was, I thought that as much as I love the SDK experiment, and I'm here if that keeps going, I'm here if Conway gets healthy and comes back, whatever the Cats decide to do. But if Stanley can do that, and he doesn't have to win the hit out numbers every week, but if he can do that against something in that area against most teams, then I think that's a pretty good baseline of what we need from a ruckman.
And I think that people are also forgetting what he can do off the ball. He's just that presence of a tall guy that's like, oh, there's a big guy there who can mark his ball easily. But he's also got that running power and the mobility to be able to be one spot, and then when the team transition, he can be on the same side they were just on. And there was lots of moments where Stanley had big impacts, took a big mark in that last quarter, massive mark in the last quarter, to send it back inside our 50 just to get the pressure on them. And I don't think you get it from STK just yet. Those big crucial moments where you can just go to a pack and take a big mark, because he's still STK's got that defender mindset where big punch. I agree with you on Stanger's big game, gets the love again, which is good. Tom Stewart.
Just before we move on from Stanley, 45.7% hit outs to advantage. So nearly half of those 35 went to the advantage of his teammates.
Made a couple of tackles, a couple of clearances. Is that right?
No, clangers.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Big Stangers had some clangers. Tom Stewart.
Tom Stewart, again, another classic Tom Stewart game that does everything that marks of him. And, felt like a fairly quietish game from him, but he still gets 19 disposals, 7 marks, a tackle, 356 metres gains. When his quiet games are still so impactful and so incredibly good. He probably could have got him the votes nearly. Just misses out. But tell you what, when he is just an incredible player. I'm so glad he's at the Cats, and as I said, looking like he can play for many years still.
Lawson Humphreys, already mentioned him with his defensive efforts, his spoils, etc. But he also had 16 touches, 13 by foot, 3 by hand, 8 marks. He just looks comfortable as an AFL footballer. I really, really loved his game. Another guy I'll just mention, Shannon Neal.
Yep.
8 touches, couple of marks, 4 hit outs. He had 2 of those to advantage. He had 50% hit out to advantage rate. 2 goals. 1, I still think we're seeing good signs that Shannon Neal is going to grow into the role.
One thing I like about Shannon Neal is, I think it was like halfway through the game, like I'd like to see a bit more from him. I was like, oh, he's only played a few games, give him a bit of time. And then that second half, he stood up and really started using his muscle and his body to start impacting the game. Where like it wasn't a lot, but there was just a few crucial moments where he was able to just out-muscle someone or spoil someone or just impose himself a little bit more. So I really can't wait to see him get used to his size and body in the AFL level and get stronger.
Yeah, he's probably just in that annoying part of development where he's actually physically mature enough, but the mental part hasn't clicked yet of like, oh, wait, I'm the monster.
Yeah.
I'm the monster on the field that can crash the packs. It's like, yes, you are. So, like, go and do it sort of thing. And it is funny how you sometimes say those things and you're like, oh, I just wish we'd see this or that. And then we started seeing it, from him. Do you have another player, Sambo, to round us out?
Just say, how good is it that Tom Hawkins retiring at the end of this year, and then we've got Shannon Neal, who's not the same, but a very similar type build, just coming in to replace him. It's like that's pretty incredibly lucky for the Cats that we've got this young, good-looking forward ready to step up.
Johnny's a fan.
I'm a fan.
Good-looking forward.
He's a good-looking forward, and he's going to be a monster forward. I still reckon he's going to be a absolute monster.
Probably even a bit more mobile, too, than Hawkeye. But we're going to talk about Hawkeye and Shannon Neal in the Patreon part of the show. But before we do that, do you have another player to add to here, Sambo, or another thought to finish us off?
I like seeing Mullen out there.
You were alone in that. He copped a shredding.
For what? He wasn't out there enough to... He didn't... I'm not saying he did anything great, but did he do anything wrong?
There was that one absolute brilliant moment where he just tapped it straight out to the advantage of the Cats play in defence under immense pressure.
We've got to be careful, I think, as fans. I was thinking about this weekend specifically because whenever I went on Twitter during the game, there was a player being like ripped out that I was like, what? I think you can do it like this goes both ways, but I think we tend to do it more in the negative sense that we latch on to one thing. Like Mullen's thing was he came on and he gave away like 3 free kicks in the space of like 10 minutes. And so then it's like Mullen's had a mare, he's not up to it, get him out.
And also, at least one of them was absolute bullshit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair enough.
I can't even remember what they were.
But, like, it's just that thing. Like, I remember someone was talking about, Brad Close looks like he's, dropped. He's out of contention for a spot. This was a few weeks ago saying we should drop Close. We should, like, you've got to look at the full body of work. And that goes, you shouldn't just latch onto one positive thing that a player does. But I would say when you latch onto that one positive thing, I think it's really easy for us as fans to look at what players can't do. But I actually think that although coaches and scouts and player development people will look at what a player can't do, what you're really looking for first is, well, what can they do? What's their strength? What's that really good thing that they bring to the team? We'll worry about minimizing the negative or improving that later. But if you've got something really great to bring to the table, and I think you can go through every cat on the list and go, we can see what the upside is. And yes, they've got.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkins is like talking about Hawkins' mobility. He had fully admits that when he couldn't run. Like they developed game plans about the fact that he could not run,
and he still can't run.
But you wouldn't if a scout was looking for someone that's like at least 60% in all areas with some improvements, Hawkins wouldn't have been selected.
I mean, Hawkins injured himself trying to run.
He finally had a go at it. He's like, you know what? This didn't work decades ago. Maybe.
Someone on Twitter had a great point. I'm sorry, you had one more play that you were going to get to because Mullen was the side.
Mullen was specifically not that he did anything fantastic, which I like the Mullen project.
Me too.
Just saying, like the behind that Dangerfield soccered.
Mm.
They said someone on Twitter said I'd prefer to see him soccer that than try and bend down and pick it up and do a hammy.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was thinking about this during the West, like people going, "Oh, why don't you just pick it up and kick it?" It's like he's going at full tilt.
Yeah.
He's in his 30s.
And tear hammy and plow head first into the signs.
First off, the ball is not bouncing up to him.
Yeah.
So, what would you rather have him go down, pick it up, and just trip over his own feet and fall over and not get it behind, or score anything and look like a fool, or go for the obvious choice and kick the ball?
100% that was the right call.
Yeah.
One out of 10 times it hit the wrong party of the ball and it goes sideways like that. And also, he's seen Dempsey do it. He had to try and got to keep up with the
Exactly.
You can't let him show. Yeah, can't let him show you how it's done.
So your final thought, last player?
Just grind Myers. I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, ripper goal.
Dude, yeah, that's enough. That's just the goal.
A ripper goal that got 10th in the 10 top moments, not 9th.
Yeah.
Like, and then you see a couple of players, running with the ball. A handball got in higher than the top.
Was it a Dacos?
No.
Oh, who
it was
was
a Giants to this guy who could go. And then Zach Butters one where he outrun the unfit Clayton Oliver. And then the scum player who did it but on less of an angle. But that got in higher than him. Like,
you got to remember, Johnny, they're not actually going to get the amount of big Melbourne clubs in the finals that they want. So
yeah, they got to celebrate them now. Until then.
I did see a great comment on Instagram today. It's like, it's so good to see not some of the big Victorian clubs in the top 8. Okay.
Yeah. That's good. You got to remember, most people see Geelong as an interstate team.
Yeah.
Or a team from outer space.
Well, that's why they won't drive down there.
That's true.
It's too far.
It's a long way.
So far.
All right, that's it. That's the public part of the show done and dusted. If you want to get in on the Patreon part of the show, then go on over and subscribe for a free trial on the Patreon, the Hoops Crew Patreon. We will be back in your ears and in front of your eyeballs on Thursday evening with a preview pod, the Cats v the Saints. Tricky game, I think. Potential to be not only like a banana peel, but like a banana peel that Ross Lyons put like knuckle dusters on and like, those...
A few shivs.
Yeah, some ninja stars and stuff. They're a weird knuckleball team, the Saints, and I think we've got to be switched on. So we'll preview all of that for you. If you're a Patreon subscriber, there'll be the Wednesday news wrap as well. All the other stuff across the Hoops Crew Network. Anyway, we're getting out of here. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button. And until next time, go Cats!